Hello, welcome to today's webinar, our 36th webinar on 13 ways to improve your Facebook ads with ad targeting. A personal favorite topic of mine in the sense that we can get consistent, scalable traffic from this social platform, higher click-through rates, conversion rates than virtually any other channel that we're buying on the paid side that is preemptive, reaching audiences that don't know they're looking for a product and opportunity. Privileged to have Nikki Chung here with us today, leading the media department here at DNA, and going to be talking about all the inner workings of how we build out our audience personas, how we identify those different individuals, how we A/B test with different setups that we have on Facebook, on Meta, going across Instagram and various other placements in the audience network. Nikki, thanks for taking the time to join today. It's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to today's presentation.
Thank you for the warm introduction here. Appreciate you inviting me on, and it's a pleasure to be here speaking with you. I've been waiting as well to be on here. It's been almost over a year actually since I've been on this webinar, so it's good to be back.
That's right. That's right. We have DNA team members on talking about what they do across the volume of campaigns. Nikki's been with us for over a year now, so it's time. Have done a volume of campaigns, well over 100. Some that have produced, well over 10 million in investments, others that have produced conversion value that is outstanding in comparison to clients' past performance, their initiatives, their goals, and just overall industry averages. Some of the metrics, the benchmarks I see coming out of the ad department, and specifically from Nikki here, stand out. And we're going to get the background on how to set up campaigns, starting with the audience builds here today. Now, Nikki, as I pull up the deck here, why is audience targeting so important? We talked about the title, 13 ways to target audience. Why does this matter? Why is this the focus of today's webinar?
So audience targeting is actually extremely important. We need to be reaching the right people, and that's the simple answer. I feel like targeting in many ways does get overlooked because people are really obsessed with, hey, what's a good creative? How do we make the best creative possible? What's good copy? What are best copies, best practices for copy, right? Targeting is there in the background. We need to be delivering our ads to the best audiences, right? Imagine you have an amazing ad, but you're just not hitting the right people. The ad's not resonating with your target audience. Well, you need to be targeting the right audience for your ads to convert, right? You'll see a higher conversion rate if you target the right people, whether it's in the right location, whether it's more detailed targeting, better placement. If you're seeing your ad perform in a better placement, that's targeting as well. So make sure you have targeting down, or else you're gonna have a harder time seeing conversions.
Exactly. And, the concept of running ads on Meta, Facebook, Instagram gets bulked together as a channel. And often I see brands write off the whole platform, the whole medium, because of a failed experiment, a failed campaign. And that's all an initial push really is a test. It's an experiment. When we look under the hood, we start to see that audiences were not set up properly based on some of the target personas in a brand strategy, which is where I want to kick things off here today. Creative is not set up to really engage those individuals and does not match with what those audiences are seeing from other brands, from other feeds. And the funnel is not optimized for performance. So we want to begin today's discussion, today's focus. We want to be able to emphasize around reaching the right audiences, taking those folks down the right funnel, having the right parameters in place to be able to identify who's really moving and replicate, scale, do more of that. That's what we've seen in our campaigns. We're generally shooting for a 10x return on marketing spend, a 10x return on ad spend, even with Facebook ads, which I hear more and more these days do not work. Since the iOS 14.5 and later updates, pixel tracking has been at a standstill. Simply not the case. I'm going to show you some of our tricks today. Again, it's going to be great having Nikki giving the full background here. But this all begins with the strategy. I never recommend that a brand hops into ad spends tomorrow and throws together whatever audiences come to mind first, maybe a broad targeting, which you should include an A/B test, but should not limit your campaigns to. And they're expecting to see performance quick, not taking into account sales cycle, how many touch points it's going to take to see a conversion. Even retargeting and retargeting pools are not part of the discussion. Nikki, why is it so important that every campaign begins with a strategy? Whether it's streamlined version of one, or a month or even more time dedicated just to formulating the right plan?
That's a good question. And I always start, talking about strategy with the quote that actually Jason always says. I'm surprised he hasn't said it. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right? So you need a strategy. And why? That's because, you have to be able to understand who you're targeting and the creatives you're doing, you're setting your budget as well. So number one, identify your audience. You need to understand who, what, when, where, and why, right? Why your audience needs your product or maybe investment opportunity you're talking about, who they are, what they're interested in doing, when they show up on Facebook and Instagram, right? People show up different times of the day. Maybe if you're targeting like the regular working person, maybe they'll show up after 5, usually during work hours. They're not going to be on, right? So it's just little things like that you have to think about. And obviously design your creatives and write copy. That's really important because look, if you're doing a ad, like for example, on TikTok, it has to be very, very native to the platform. TikTok ads are very specific. You cannot expect to do a very professional ad on TikTok because that's just not what the audience engages with. So always remember brand voice and the platform you're going to be on need to align in order to get your ads working, your targeting working.
And we have past webinars, blogs, all different types of workshops and documents online to talk about our strategy approach, which is called the 8-point plan. We're generally doing over the course of a month. Industry overview, competitor marketing audit, target audience, marketing channels, strategic partnerships, getting into projections and activation. I want to point out the competitor audit section of this in particular, because we're going to get into more information about audience, touch point. The competitor audit tells me everything. If I'm looking at 3 brands that are going after the same audiences, the same individuals, I can look at platforms like SpyFu, see the keywords, see the search ads that they're physically using, go down the funnel, get a better sense of their landing page. Can do the same with Facebook. And on Facebook ad library, you can see the exact ads that they're running today, ones they've launched in the past, timelines of that. I'll go further and sign up for their email, do a Google News search them on the social platform, see who's talking about them. I want to have an understanding of everything they're doing to obtain market share. And furthermore, those ads are going to show up right next to yours among that audience. Let's say every 10 posts on Facebook, on Instagram, they're going to see those ads. So why shoot in the dark? Why don't you put it together to make sure you're coming out of the gate with creative that's going to be more impactful than your competition? It's a step that's skipped again and again and again and again by groups we work with, by groups we're speaking to, by other agencies, by in-house marketing teams that they're working with. A cluelessness towards what else is running in the marketplace. And I'll tell you right now, success leaves clues. There are different types of visual aspects that you can incorporate into your ads, not copy, but just be able to build in that direction. Same with the messaging, the call to action. We have brands that constantly want to run to their offering page, and their competitors are all running to some type of email capture lead page beforehand. What does that tell me? Hey, they've run enough media, run enough traffic to be able to understand this is what's needed. The audience is not at that point of their consideration process, at that point of the funnel quite yet. So why launch anything without understanding what those who've gone down this path before you have found? And all the clues, all the findings, all the evidence is out there. You could pretend you're the target audience. Maybe you are in many respects, and have an exact understanding before building out these audience personas, before determining what creative and channels to use to reach them. So identify your audience. You start setting your budget, designing your creatives, writing copy. We're going to talk more about the advertising algorithm, at least the one that we use, which is based on industry averages, later in this presentation. But budget, it shouldn't be an uncomfortable topic. We work with a lot of startups. We work with groups that are trying to raise capital with equity crowdfunding and other types of investment marketing. The budget is the base that is going to be going through a multiplier with your return on ad spend, and at least as a goal. I see too many founders, too many marketing directors, CMOs focused on return on ad spend without having understanding of all the metrics that come before it in the algorithm, starting with budget. So we're going to go through a scenario, a 10K budget, very minimal in many communities. Non-existent in larger areas of advertising. But we'll see campaigns run all the way down to $100 a day. So if you're a founder trying to figure out how to make all of this advertising work from a financial standpoint, don't be afraid. I'll give you different ideas about that as well too. But having an understanding of the impressions you're buying, average click-through rates, the cost per click you're going to effectively produce, the amount of traffic that's coming through, the conversion rate at each stage of the funnel, all of that applies directly to this budget conversation. And another little fun fact about audience is Facebook, Instagram, Meta, any social ad platform. We run ads on TikTok. Campaigns work well still on Snapchat, Quora, Reddit. Twitter is opened up to cannabis advertisers and new verticals. We run app install campaigns on Apple and Google. Google for search, I can tell you all the different benefits of that, all the limitations with scale as well. Any ad platform, they want to reach the right audiences with the right promotions, right adverts at the right time. And they will encourage advertisers to spend more. They will reward good targeting with lower rates, meaning if you're running ads that your audience is responding to well, you're going to be able to obtain a lower bid rate on these auctions for any of these ad placements. If you're getting a low level of response, you'll see your CPMs, your cost per 1,000 impressions. You'll see your cost per clicks given the platform take more and more out of you. The rates will go up. You're reaching the right audience, right time, you will, as a rule of thumb, see that go down. So, Nikki, you were talking about who, what, where, when, why. What do you really want to know about an audience? As you're saying this, let's say a client is on the phone, kickoff call. We've got some information in the discovery call, but what would you need to hear to get the understanding that these guys really have a grasp on their target audience, and now I can target off of it?
You know what? To be honest with you, I want to know everything about my audience, literally everything. And, like the more I know, the better I can target. And it just so happens that Facebook does know everything that happens with you, like what you're doing with your life, what your career is. Facebook has all that data. And fortunately for us, we can still use that for targeting. So who they are, what's their demographic, male, female, age, where they are, where they're located in the United States, which state, which city even, which specific zip code. Facebook has that information, what they like to do, what they're doing on weekends, where they like to spend time even, what they interact with. Do they tend to interact with political campaigns? Do they tend to interact with clothing? What do they like, right? All that stuff. Overall demographics. So, this is more of like life events, their relationships, things like that. Facebook has picked up all that data. They know your birthday, they know like pretty much everything. So what I want to hear from client really is what age their target audience is in, what gender. And usually for ads testing, we normally start with both male and female. There are some situations where when we're scaling, we'll favor one gender over another, just because we're seeing overwhelmingly majority of one gender performing much better. And there are some campaigns, some businesses that are catered to one specific gender. For example, clothing for maybe females, right? You most likely, for most times of the year, you will not advertise to men if you're selling female clothing, right? Maybe for Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, you can say, hey, this is a great gift for your significant other, right? But other than that, you have to understand your demographics, and really as much as you can about them in order to get your targeting down.
Exactly. And as Nikki's saying, as much as you can, I like to break it down to a fictional persona. We're generally beginning with 4 to 10 audiences. I want to do at least 3 personas, anticipating a 4th audience for retargeting. We'll talk more about lookalike audiences later. In many cases, that there's a list of custom audiences we use with different email lists that are uploaded, different databases that we're able to reference. Let's say it's those 3 personas, a name, profile picture. I want to personify who we're reaching, because I want to be able to use this information for the media buyers, for the graphic designers, for the copywriters. I want it to be broken down for the finance department at our clients' offices, let alone the founders. Anyone who's touching the marketing or growth of this company should understand the audiences that are going to feed into those milestones. So as we do so, and as we prepare to target from an advertising standpoint, what do they do on the weekends? Who are their biggest influences? What do they do at night? Where do they get their information, their news? What events do they go to? How do they celebrate their birthday? I want to know what makes these people tick. And the better I can do so, the better I can structure an advertising campaign to, I don't want to say perform mind control, but be influencing, to be creating action at a higher rate. Yes, as I mentioned, we'll do open targeting for Facebook, but we'll do that as one ad set. And I really want to see how these other campaigns, these other ad sets comparatively perform. Let the data tell us what's working. We always have assumptions going in. Sometimes we're ecstatic about one of the audiences, later to find that another one outperformed. We want to have a wide enough net, hence the open targeting as one of the sets of targeting, so that we could really pinpoint who's driving this, not just who we think is going to be driving it. Nikki was mentioning age. Sometimes we're off in age. Sometimes the decade that we're able to hone into further is younger or older than we anticipated. And if we're too narrow in the targeting, we miss that. So you want to make sure you're setting up your tests to give you the right data. But if anyone asks you, and as a media buyer, just setting up these campaigns, managing them, who is the target audience? I think your answer should be longer versus shorter. Here are the types of music they listen to. Here are the type of movies they see. These are the places they travel. Here's the sports teams that they follow. Here are their favorite foods. I've heard all of this in audience persona breakdowns. I've heard a lack of it by many groups as well too. And every one of those things I just mentioned is targetable in one way, shape, or form. Even the ability to create custom audiences and some of the background that goes into that development. And Nikki, as I'm talking about this, why do we go to such levels of minutia in targeting? Why is ad targeting important for your marketing strategy?
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but targeting is very, very important, right? I said this earlier, but if you have an amazing ad, it can be great. It can convert, you know, your target audience, but you're not hitting that target audience. You're gonna end up not converting a thing. You're gonna end up thinking maybe this ad is not good, and you're gonna move on from that ad. But really, it's just not your target audience. You're not hitting the right people, right? So ad targeting, you want to hit the right people for marketing. Like you can't just be targeting the wrong people all the time, right? You need to be hitting that age, gender, the demographics like we spoke about earlier. You need to be hitting all those right points.
And with the numbers in mind, and I get asked at times, how many audiences should I target? How many audiences too much? Can we roll out 20 different audiences to begin. We recommend that 4 to 10. We work on some larger campaigns that go after much higher volumes and a quicker window of time. The important part is that you have a large enough sample size. You're getting enough data to have findings that support more intelligent actions in your next round of optimizations. You do not want inconclusive data. 1 click, 10 clicks from an audience, hey, we shut it off, it's not working, Facebook isn't working, is not healthy behavior. As Nikki mentioned, you don't want to shut something off too early. If you don't have 100 clicks from a given audience on a given creative, or 1,000, you're not even scratching the surface. If your target audience is 2 million, which custom audiences are on Facebook, and that's rounded down, 200,000 people is 10%, 20,000 is 1%. How do you really know if you just weren't targeting the wrong percentage of a percentage of a percentage if you haven't hit some of these numbers? So keep that into account. I know budget comes into play here, and it's probably something that you're thinking about right now, but you want to be able to know, hey, we've effectively reached this audience. Not just seeing a few clicks and shut it off because it's been a week and we're thirsty for results, as much as we're working on good fundamentals over the course of a few months. I'm not a fan of Facebook meta tests that are 2 weeks long and let's see if it happens or not. It's setting it up for failure. You want to go off best practices. You want to look at a window of 3 months. We work on some equity crowdfunding campaigns on portals that allow for 2-month campaigns. Do a month of pre-launch, do it compliantly. Don't prime, but look at ways you could, build audience. You could test the waters and look to really have the right processes in play here to filter out audiences. You don't want to shut audiences off too quick either. Now, I get asked about Facebook quite a bit. Hey, are investors really on Facebook? Is my audience on Facebook? Gen Z, they're not on Facebook. Who is on Facebook these days? There's over 2.9 billion active users on Facebook every month. You need to narrow down who will see your ads to get the optimal level of performance. The way I look at it is everyone's on Facebook, every type of person, that is. So, if you're looking to reach CEOs, if you're looking to reach any type of professional, actually B2B is a very strong performing category. I can tell you my feed is filled with business opportunities and investment opportunities, different than, my wife, recently married. That's still a new thing for me to say. Probably the first on a webinar, but hers is fashion and, handbags and other things that she would be embarrassed that I was telling you right now. Either way, every feed is different. Every type of individual is targetable on Facebook.
Yeah, and I do want to echo that, Jason. There's a lot of people on Facebook. 2.9 billion. That's actually daily active users on Facebook. So
Excuse
every
me.
day, 2.9 billion. That's a lot of people, right? And you might think, you might have run Facebook ads and think, maybe your audience is not on Facebook. No, they're on Facebook for sure, right? And if you're thinking your audience is young, they're maybe not on Facebook, then they're on TikTok. So it's either Facebook or TikTok if you want to reach your audience, right? So, and Facebook and TikTok both have really like a lot of users daily. TikTok's probably not even close to what Facebook is at right now, 2.9 billion daily. And Facebook is by far the most used social media app right now in the world. So you're very, very, very likely to hit your target audience on Facebook. It's just how you target, how you think creatively to hit your audiences.
We use Facebook to reach accredited investors for Reg D 506C campaigns that have 100K minimums and have seen much larger investments. And that's the minimum. We use it for lead gen to get those conversions. We have advertising running to investment campaigns that's open to up to everyone, retail and accredited investors that produce investments that are tens of thousands of dollars, just over 6 figures at times on those vehicles, tracked with Facebook Ad Pixel. And I'm going to talk more about pixels and some of the workarounds for that as well here too. But the point is, any type of audience you're trying to reach, maybe not the full audience, but members of it are reachable on Facebook. And always surprises me when I travel international and everyone's asking for Facebook Messenger as a communication channel. And by the way, every time I say Facebook, picture Instagram in the background. That's probably the channel I use the most as an individual, with business, LinkedIn. But I interact differently. When I'm on LinkedIn, it's checking messages, reaching out, maybe doing some updates. When I'm on Instagram, it's kind of to scroll aimlessly, see a few friends' stories, check out a few reels, look at some grid posts, 20 minutes, check out what's going on. If an ad comes up, I'm a sucker for good advertising. Just being in the business, it stands out to me. I convert all the time for workshops, webinars like this, e-commerce, investments, what have you. So we're going to now get into these 13 points. Nikki, why is proximity power?
Right. So geotargeting, very important here. You can tell Facebook to target worldwide. So everybody in the world is using Facebook, or you can go as small as this little city, in California, wherever it may be. So there's just so many targeting options. The only location you can target on Facebook would actually be North Korea. You can target pretty much anywhere else in the world. So this is important because you want to narrow down where your customers or investors are uh, in any given state, city, wherever you're seeing performance, you want to narrow that down. When we're testing, we tend to like to keep it to United States in general. And in general, we'll still see the bigger states, bigger cities outperform the smaller ones. So we're looking at California, New York, Texas. Those are even Florida actually. We'll see very, very good performance from. And Facebook actually, the algorithm tends to target those cities because they generally just have more people there, and more people there tend to convert better. So I wanted to talk about targeting outside of the United States. We're seeing WeFunder open up investments to EU. So anybody in Europe, UK, wherever it is, there, we're doing some expansion and geotargeting to those countries. And we're starting to see some conversions come through in those areas, right? For UK, wherever you name it, in that area, it's starting to see some performance. And again, here, determine where a majority of users are located and refocus your targeting. This is actually very important. So once you've tested, once you've understood really where your cream of the crop is in your geo-targeting, you want to start narrowing down. Maybe your best performing audiences are in California and New York, right? You want to start, when you're scaling, test those audiences just by themselves, test those locations just by themselves, and see how they do by themselves. And you may see better performance.
And you can have different creatives, different funnel, kind of break it down in that fashion of audience, creative funnel. And when a campaign's not working, I want to look at each three of those separately. And you can have the UK audience with different creative going down a different funnel. There's ways to have this, hyper local. I live in Marina Del Rey. Our offices are in Marina Del Rey, California, and Los Angeles, right next to Venice Beach. If I see ads that have the words Marina Del Rey in them, or pictures of my neighborhood, of the marina, I pay more attention. It feels like it's more focused towards me, more important. Again, proximity is power. For other types of marketing that we do, if we're doing LinkedIn outreach and we're going towards investors, but in a specific area, that they're more likely to respond, not only to set up a meeting, let alone a call, but feel more of a responsibility to get back to people in their community. So you want it to feel like there is a community effect, and you could accomplish that with messaging, with funnel, in addition to the targeting filters that Nikki is pointing out here. And again, you could do this comparatively. So you could see how each audience is performing and optimize towards what's working best. Nikki, when we say age, gender, why don't we want to reach everybody? What are we really stating when we're talking about age targeting? Because I know it's not perfect. It's not 100% of the impressions that get delivered there. When do we want to make the shift if it's not right out of the gate to go after, let's say, 45 to 54 versus 25 to 34?
Yeah, so for the most part, when you're testing out your ads, you do want to keep it open, depending on what you're selling, or if you're doing investment marketing. Usually, we'll see ages 25 to 65 plus convert a lot better than anybody under that. Just because we had that data, worked over hundreds of campaigns, we already tend to know the age and gender that converts quite well. Usually when we're talking about demographics, we usually talk more about age versus gender, because a lot of investment opportunities, are pretty much for both male and females, right? It's really e-commerce when it kicks in, where you pick a specific gender to sell towards. So that's what it's more for. But for age, you don't want to change any of this. I guess general age targeting until we have data to back it up. If you're seeing ages, for example, 35 plus convert a lot better than the ages under, then you might want to start your shifting your targeting towards that age only. And right when you're scaling, when you're testing out more, you want to switch that age targeting towards the better performance, better performing age.
And you can view this in the charts without setting up your targeting for it. Facebook Audience Insights, great thing to use during strategy and putting together audiences, along with what Facebook makes, what Meta makes available to you, and some recommendations accordingly. But on any ad set, you can view charts and look at the age, look at the gender. There are often surprises here, and we have seen campaigns where women perform better, even on the investment side. So make sure you're watching this. You should be able to answer these questions, even if they're not parts of your direct targeting. Now, for education, financial, relationship, work, and life events, take the time to test out, find the exact audiences that are going to be the most likely to convert, to move forward, to purchase, invest, buy, install, and always test. Do not go off your assumptions. It's nothing more than a thought until the data shows you what's actually working, what's actually driving, and confirming that you have an effective traffic source. So detailed targeting, allows you to target by school, education level. We'll target by household income and net worth. We used to have various targeting filters available to us through Meta. Now it's more of a percentage basis, zip codes, back to geo. Also, there's various types of financial audience data that's available, and financial audience data partners that you could stack for media buys, relationship status, and current events around that allow for targeting. Work and life events, same concept. You always want to be playing around with detailed targeting and seeing what is now available, because Meta changes it constantly. Furthermore, don't limit your searches and detailed targeting to your knowledge base. Google is a great counterpart to Facebook audience targeting. So you can put together lists of interests, and we're going to talk more about this here in the advanced detailed targeting section. Nikki will be able to speak to both of these as well here too. But if you want to find financial publishers, Google list of top financial publishers, put each of those one by one in detailed targeting. I guarantee you're going to find some that you were not familiar with. Replace the word finance with any industry plus publishers, industry plus events, industry plus channels, industry plus any type of news, and you're going to start seeing different types of interest, different types of pages that you could target that would otherwise be blinders. Furthermore, you could determine whether to include or separate this targeting. So you could have 10 different pages that if the audience follows any of those, they are now in a given ad set. For any of these life events or anything like that, and you bulk it together, or you could narrow it so that it's filtered and literally it's audiences that follow each of those. Otherwise, they won't be included.
Yeah, and then the advanced detail targeting we can use actually as an option on Facebook, where what it does is Facebook, yeah, basically automatically expands your audience and will target people outside of your intended targeting. So this is what I found to be a good option to use when you're scaling, where you have a bigger pool of people to show your ads to, but not really for testing, just because when we're testing, we want to figure out whether the audiences that we're hitting are producing, whether they're interacting, all that stuff. And we don't want Facebook to go out and target different people and have them skew that data here. So this is definitely more for testing, but scaling, very, very good option.
Exactly. Be mindful of whether this box is checked or not. Oftentimes, there's no comprehension of if it's being used and what it really means. Especially if you're going after a really narrow audience, make sure that box isn't checked until it's time to scale, like Nikki said. Nikki, what are some approaches to workarounds? Thinking outside of the box.
Right. So I actually love this one just because thinking outside the box sounds so simple, but it makes a big difference in your campaign. So there are a lot of audiences on Facebook, and Facebook has eliminated a lot of targeting due to privacy reasons or what have you. They've eliminated a lot of targeting. So advertisers, we're now limited to what we can pick from Facebook's targeting list. But just because they remove targeting doesn't mean we can't still target them. We just have to think creatively, think outside the box to target them. So one example that I like talking about is we work with a more political type campaign. They want to target people who are more Republicans. And obviously you can't target people based on their political affiliation on Facebook. Not anymore, at least. Maybe back a couple of years ago, you could. You could even target like Donald Trump, right? But you can no longer do that. That's not an option. So what we did was we thought outside the box here. How can we still target those people without directly targeting those people, right? There are some very, very intuitive options when it comes to Republican targeting or even conservative, Democrat, political in general, right? But here, when we thought about it for conservative targeting, we're targeting like Fox News, for example. Hunting is a good one, and that actually performed really well, one of the top performing audiences. And Ted Nugent, NASCAR, Formula One, those tend to be more conservative type audiences. And this is exactly what I mean when we're thinking outside the box. And another, I guess, example here, quick one, is when I did e-commerce, I was selling a fitness product, right? So for fitness products, we did really well Q4. Q1 rolls around, it's New Year's. How do we get people to buy this fitness product? So we thought about it. Hey, everybody's doing their New Year's resolution right now. So how do we get people who might be a little overweight to buy our products and start doing more fitness stuff? So we targeted things like fast food, like McDonald's. It sounds kind of stereotypical, but that's how you have to target. It's how you think about. That's how you have to think when you want to hit those target audiences.
Exactly. Don't be limited to what Meta or any ad platform for that matter makes available to you. As Nikki said, politics became a very difficult area over the past few years, or it was not before actually. As marketers, we have to be able to look at these characteristics of target audiences and apolitically at that too. Back to 2012, I've worked on campaigns for political parties and on both sides. More importantly, if we get a gold IRA investments company to say, hey, we need to reach conservatives 65 and above, we have to look at those same audience persona questions and say, all right, based on that, where else is our audience beyond marking their political affiliation or looking at direct publishers, which Facebook has made untargetable, essentially. And as Nikki's pointing out, there's a lot of interest, behaviors, zip codes, a whole stack of different things that we can approach. And that's just for this topic. You want to think about it for any topic. It's all a set of tests. You want to be able to let the data tell you what's working. I'm going to preach this again and again and again and again. Test, optimize, scale. As it says in the top of the screen, the name of my podcast, what we do, summarized into 3 words, our approach to marketing, entrepreneurship, growth, summarized into 3 words. These are just a series of tests. You're looking for workarounds, means you're looking for growth hacks. Not each one is going to work, but you could find some really key drivers here. Now, we're talking about Meta, but platforms outside of Meta are definitely part of the conversation. Again, I'm a fan of testing Meta first, maybe alongside Google. There's some verticals where Google will actually be the key platform to begin with, and then Meta really just for retargeting, maybe some B2B targeting or some narrow targeting on top of it. Then as you're seeing performance on each, could start adding prospecting, reaching audiences for the first time. But again, something about the click-through rate, conversion rate, reaching somebody while they're scrolling, that is just favoring Meta over display placements, sponsored content, secondary social platforms, even platforms that are niche, vertical specific, or like LinkedIn. Hey, we're reaching business audiences. You could still get a higher click-through rate, in many cases, a higher conversion rate. A different conversion behavior is how I like to say it from Meta. That being said, Nikki's a big TikTok fan, champions it in office, both for organic and paid placements. We look to incorporate that on campaigns as we're seeing performance on Meta, or as an alternative test at a later point. We look at other social platforms as you see listed here, as you see we've mentioned. So once you've got enough data and know that the landing pages, the conversions are working, you can start to scale to other platforms and increase budget. But my recommendation is always start with 1, maybe 3 platforms, but a limited focus of platforms until you have those working, then taking it over to other arenas.
Yeah, and to add on to that, you have to think about, I always start with Facebook, Instagram. Those are, just bread and butter platforms to be advertising on. But if you're seeing, for example, audience that tends to be younger, maybe 18 to 30, 40 even, you might look to place on TikTok, especially if your brand voice allows for more freedom, creativity, if you're open to being on camera, showing your face, talking to the camera. That's where TikTok really excels, and that's where your ads could very, highly convert as well. You're going to be hitting those right people, right? So platform, if you're looking for maybe an older audience, you maybe find that on Facebook, other platforms as well. But always think about how your ads, how your audience can be placed on different platforms, because definitely different platforms have different people. While Facebook encompasses a large majority of them, maybe you're looking for a more niched audience, right? Where you find that maybe on YouTube, on TikTok. Like I said, I'm a big fan of TikTok, so I keep mentioning, but think about that.
And Nikki, what placements do you see performing best these days? And more importantly, what is the right model to approach and plan in regards to placements?
Yeah, so placements, let's start from the testing phase then here. So usually for the testing phase, I allow Facebook to really go wild and just place them wherever they see fit. That's so we can get the algorithm going, get the algorithm understanding which platform or which placements work best. And most of the time, we'll see that the news feed placement works the best. And I do see some good amount of conversions coming from stories and reels, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram. Usually we'll see slightly better performance on Facebook. Sometimes Instagram, depending on what your campaign is, depending on how your ads look. Usually more aesthetically pleasing ads perform better on Instagram, but Facebook definitely does very, very well. So newsfeed placements on Facebook, Instagram placements, those take up the biggest space when people are scrolling down their newsfeed. That's what people will most likely see. If your ad is placed in video, people have the option to skip it. Usually we don't see too much performance off of those. They're usually in the middle of video and they want to continue watching the video. So it tends to not convert very well for Facebook, Instagram placements. However, with the rising popularity of Facebook and Instagram Reels, due to TikTok's rising popularity, we've seen those placements start performing well. And ads on those placements are converting, sometimes even at a higher rate than those newsfeed ads. We've seen Reels pick up. We've seen people post popular viral TikTok videos on their Reels, and those go viral as well. So definitely don't count out Reels placements, Stories placements. Those are great placements as well.
Exactly. And if you're not looking at the placements on the reports, you are missing areas for improvement. When I talk about optimizations, whether it's audience, creative, placements, you're likely going to see one or two that are performing much better than the rest, and you could optimize towards. You're going to want to watch the rates and how you're reaching them from there. Moving to retargeting. You want to make sure that you're following up and keeping your opportunity in front of those who've been to your site, your ads, your funnel. We like doing page engagement audiences going back 365 days. In addition to the pixel targeting, that page engagement will allow you to reach anyone who's clicked on an ad, posts, follows your page. You get a much larger percentage of the retargeting pool than you would strictly from pixels, as most Facebook users do not allow Facebook to track them off app. The page retargeting is in app. You'll be able to reach the majority in that regard. So 7 touch points or more is the age-old rule of thumb. 17 or more is used in more and more communities. The idea is more touch points increases the probability that an audience moves forward, that they convert and shows a higher conversion rate at any of your events. The Pixel has different events, often view content, perhaps add to cart, initiate checkout before purchase, before lead, before install. So you want to look at different types of retargeting messaging, look at each stage of that funnel, each event as a different retargeting pool. And it's a balance of prospecting to retargeting. When I first learned about programmatic ads, I was taught from some of the best that it's all in the retargeting. It's all about the retargeting pool. It's all what you do with this audience here. So prospecting for a lower price, spending more on retargeting, but to a more finite audience, having different retargeting pools along the way are part of the secrets. When we're talking about retargeting, we're talking about setting up a custom audience. Nikki, what are some of the best custom audiences?
Custom audiences, my favorite thing to talk about. I feel like I can talk a whole webinar on custom audiences, but my personal favorite one to use is going to be the email list. So if you have a list of, let's say, I think 1,000, I would say is really the bare minimum for an email list or a customer list, you can actually upload that to Facebook, and Facebook will match those users that, with the email, because they have a huge database. So they can match those emails to a profile and you can start advertising to them. So from these custom audiences, we can make a bunch of other audiences as well. There's, lead form audiences we can make. We can make lookalike audiences, very important, that we'll touch on later. But yeah, retargeting audiences come from this audience, custom audience as well. So there's just so much you can do in custom audiences, and I encourage you guys to explore that.
Even creating custom audiences with video views. I mean, first of all, you could target based on those who have viewed your videos and to different quartiles, how long they viewed. So you may be able to build a retargeting pool for a cheaper price with video views, in the sense that maybe it's a penny, few cents, much lower cost for a video view than it is a click. So if you're building a retargeting pool from video views, you can often get a lot further and set that up as a custom audience in its own. We talked about various types of targeting. Nikki, what's the significance to narrowing this down, and when is the right time to do so?
Narrowing audiences, I would do it lightly if you have to during testing, but really narrowing, I would do more during scaling. So narrowing your audiences, what this means is people, or narrowing people based on their interests or multiple interests actually. So if, for example, they're interested in green energy and they happen to, be vegans, you can actually narrow this down and have Facebook target people who are into both green energy and they're vegans. So this is a very powerful tool if you want to narrow down on specific, if you have a very specific niched audience, this is where you can do it. And we found this to be actually higher converting, maybe not necessarily converting more in numbers, but percentage wise, this is where you'll see, huge improvement.
Exactly. The lookalike audience tool and the great Spider-Man breakdown here. I don't know if this is the Spideyverse, but I like the breakdown. You can provide, Facebook a list, create a custom audience. As we mentioned, it could even be, a lookalike of an audience you've created, a narrowed down audience. Finds the 1% of the country that's most similar to that audience. So for the US, over 2 million, about 2 million, 2.2, that will populate in this audience, which you can then filter down further. I'm told there's extra magic that happens here. It's not just a straight breakdown of that. There's theories that audio feeds around your devices help field targeting, and a lot of that would show up here in lookalike. It can be very powerful. It is hit or miss, though. You want to A/B test, look at the variance, and filter down. And as always, test, optimize, and scale. It's all encompassing. I can't say it enough. Do not think your campaigns are going to work right out of the gate, as much as build time blocks to be able to test a week, several weeks. If it's a more rapid campaign and you're spending more, you're getting enough traffic, you're getting enough data as part of your survey that you're producing with the advertising, perhaps 1,000 clicks per audience, something along those lines. You can do this in a quicker succession. We're going to talk about how to optimize a bit further here. But essentially, as we mentioned, 4 to 10 audiences to begin, 2 to 6 creatives per audience. Don't have just one. This could be a mix of video, animation, various types of GIFs. There's always new creative ad units to test out, and we recommend that. But essentially, you run that for 3 to 7 days, 1,000 clicks per segment, analyzed by each stage of the algorithm, not just return on ad spend or cost per acquisition or any end funnel result, as much as impressions, clicks, conversion rates, along with the retargeting pool, and report. If you're a single media buyer, talk to us, talk to another media buyer, talk to a media buying group, whatever it is. It helps to be able to showcase this, get findings. It's generally among a team, CEO, CFO, for a small company, other people in the marketing department, for a larger organization. As you start to optimize each of those, you can optimize towards creative, and then run that again before even shutting off creatives and looking to build your next ones. You can then optimize once the creatives are in line for each audience at the audience level. Run for 3 to 7 more days. You start understanding the cycle. You can now look to phase out non-performing audiences and then scale the budget and continually test new audiences, continually look at new creatives, have a schedule to do so that fits your model, your initiatives, your calendar, while maintaining the evergreen, the historical drivers. And we do all of this before moving to channel and looking to new channels every 3 to 7 days accordingly. Nikki, what determines a good ad? We're talking about launch, talking about KPIs here. What shows you with the numbers? It's the only way to measure, right? Not just perspective. What determines a good ad? Looking at this page around KPIs.
Sure. So a good ad can be determined in many ways, but if we're looking at just the numbers, we want to see a high click-through rate. So the industry average for click-through rate is about 1%, but I usually like to exceed KPIs. I don't know anybody who doesn't, but usually I look around 1.5 to 2% as a good click-through rate. Anything above 2% is amazing. We want people to be clicking and engaging with ads. Another thing that I don't see here is the cost per click. Low cost per click. Are people clicking from your ad to your landing page, and are they from then they're converting? So here we have low cost per investment. If people are converting at low cost, that's amazing. You want to start scaling. You know you have a good ad here. You want to start scaling. So those are just some basic metrics to look at when you're looking at what determines a good ad.
Absolutely. And again, we want to look at each stage of the algorithm to be able to determine how to improve the results at the end. Shaving cost per click by 50%, you can produce twice the level of return on ad spend. And that is very possible in many scenarios, even just optimizing towards the best segments of audience, placement, creative, what have you, even day and time of week. You have to look a bit further into for this platform. For others, it's easier. We look at the front end metrics now more than ever because of the iOS 14.5 and later updates. We look at all the metrics and analyze all the way through. So total sales, total investments, not just what we can track directly from the advertising pixel. Why? Because less than 5% of mobile Facebook users, mobile iOS Facebook users have given Facebook the permission to track them across their properties off app. And we are provided limited data. Let's say a third of the conversions we can effectively track on many of our campaigns. There are platforms to be able to receive a higher level of visibility. But for some of the marketplaces that we work in, we are limited. We can look at mid-funnel conversions, even view content and look at comparisons from the analytic platforms that are built into the site, built into the marketplace, and look at comparisons. How much traffic was physically on that page? How much traffic is the pixel saying was on that page? It may be a fifth of the traffic that the pixel's tracking. So that's telling us we're only going to be able to see a fifth of the conversions at best. And it's random. So in some cases, it may show little to no conversions. Meanwhile, there's far more that are occurring. Analytics have always had a hole in them. And before iOS 14.5 updates and later. So it's all about telling a story and not using metrics for vanity. Hey, we hit a 15x return on ad spend on the pixel, which we have campaigns performing at today, and they're live as we speak. So these campaigns are still working with the pixel, but I could tell you it's probably more of 30, 45x that it's actually producing. And we need to be able to tell the story so that we could communicate and determine the next steps of what we do. So we're going to make this deck available as we wrap up on these last few pages here, but hit our time limit. Please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be able to get you a copy, can get you a link to the video, but essentially have more breakdowns in here that you can review towards your own campaign setups and apply towards the audience targeting discussion that we're emphasizing here today. So, having the breakdowns between traffic, remarketing, and conversion campaigns from there, showing some real analytics, real performance, things that we're looking at in terms of purchase conversion value, cost per purchase of, 196 for campaigns that produce, well over $500 in conversions, having campaigns that produce for higher numbers on top of that. We can break all of this down as well in private discussions with you. So can make all of this available. Apologize that we have not been able to get to questions and address those on this discussion here. But as I invite, please feel free to reach out to us through our site. Nikki, what's the best way to get in contact with you should anyone have additional questions?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me through my email, nikki@digitalnicheagency.com, or LinkedIn works as well. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out to me there.
There you go. There you go. We've worked on over 650 campaigns to date, over 350 investor marketing campaigns, have raised hundreds of millions of capital there, and looked at, from what we're told, it's one of the top groups. So have a lot of insights, and we look at it as a duty to be able to share our findings. We are an open book, so definitely encourage you to take Nikki up on his offering there, visit us on our site, reach out about future types of content, webinars that you would like to see created. We do look at this as a collaborative and can speak to you about anything we're seeing in the market and market conditions. Been a pleasure speaking with you today on the webinar. Don't forget to test, optimize, and scale.